The Georgia sun was beginning to set as Marcus Thompson guided his Kawasaki motorcycle into the Smith's gas station just off Highway 75. The station stood isolated among vast stretches of farmland, with only a small convenience store and a flickering fluorescent light illuminating the three worn-down pumps. After riding for 6 hours straight from his family's home in Alabama, his muscles were crying out for a break. Marcus, a 32-year-old Army Special Forces staff sergeant, had spent the last weekend with his parents and younger sister, catching up on lost time after returning from his second tour in Afghanistan 3 months ago. The weekend had been exactly what he needed: his mother's home-cooked meals, his father's proud smiles, and his sister's endless stories about college life. As he pulled up to pump number 2, Marcus noticed the station was empty except for an old pickup truck parked near the store entrance. The dashboard clock on his bike read 6:45 p.m. He stretched his long, muscular frame after dismounting, his dark skin glistening with a thin layer of sweat under the humid evening air. The standard military haircut and perfect posture gave away his profession, even though he was wearing civilian clothes, dark jeans, boots, and a plain black t-shirt that fit snugly across his broad shoulders. The bell inside the store chimed as Marcus walked in to pay for his gas. Behind the counter stood Jimmy Chen, a middle-aged Asian man who had owned the station for the past 15 years. Jimmy looked up from his newspaper and gave Marcus a friendly nod. "Evening, sir. Just need to fill up my bike," Marcus said politely, pulling out his wallet. "Pump 2. That'll be $50 for a full tank," Jimmy replied, typing into his ancient cash register. As Marcus counted out the bills, the familiar rumble of motorcycles caught his attention. Through the store's wide front window, he watched as 5 Harley-Davidsons rolled into the station, followed by a custom chopper with gleaming chrome pipes. The riders were a rough-looking bunch, wearing leather vests decorated with patches that Marcus recognized as belonging to the Steel Serpents, a notorious local motorcycle gang. Jimmy's expression tightened as he accepted Marcus's money. "Be careful out there, brother," he said quietly, his eyes fixed on the bikers dismounting their rides. Marcus nodded, understanding the warning. During his time in Special Forces, he had learned to read situations quickly, and everything about this one spelled trouble. The 6 bikers were spreading out around the gas station, their movements deliberate and predatory. Their leader, a tall man with a shaved head covered in tribal tattoos, was eyeing Marcus's Kawasaki with obvious contempt. Walking back to his motorcycle, Marcus maintained awareness of his surroundings without appearing nervous. His training had taught him that showing fear often invited trouble, while displaying too much confidence could be seen as a challenge. He aimed for casual indifference as he began filling his tank. The sound of heavy boots on concrete approached from behind. Marcus could see the reflections of 3 bikers in his bike's polished fuel tank, while 2 others positioned themselves near the store entrance. The leader, who had a patch reading "Snake" on his vest, stood directly behind Marcus. "Nice rice rocket you got there, boy," Snake drawled, his voice carrying a mixture of mockery and menace. "Ain't you know this is American steel country?" Marcus continued filling his tank, his face neutral. He had faced down Taliban fighters in narrow mountain passes. A group of one-up tough guys at a gas station didn't shake him. Still, he knew the situation could turn dangerous quickly. His mind was already cataloging potential weapons within reach: the gas nozzle in his hand, the tire iron secured to his bike, the tactical knife concealed in his boot. The sun had nearly disappeared behind the horizon now, casting long shadows across the cracked concrete of the gas station. A warm breeze carried the scent of gasoline and approaching rain. In the distance, thunder rolled across the darkening sky, as if nature itself was setting the stage for what was about to unfold. Marcus replaced the gas nozzle and secured his fuel cap, each movement measured and deliberate. He could feel the tension building in the air, thick as the humidity that clung to his skin. As he turned to face Snake and his crew, Marcus knew this quiet evening was about to become anything but peaceful. Snake took a step closer to Marcus, invading his personal space. The biker's breath reeked of cheap whiskey and cigarettes, his weathered face twisted into an ugly sneer. The brass knuckles on his right hand caught the dim light of the gas station, a deliberate display of intimidation. "You seem lost, boy," Snake said, emphasizing the last word with clear racist intent. "This here's our territory. We don't take kindly to your type around these parts, especially not on Japanese bikes." Marcus remained still, his eyes scanning the group methodically. The two bikers near the store entrance were younger, probably in their mid-20s, with matching Confederate flag patches on their vests. The three closer to him were older and carried themselves with the confidence of men accustomed to violence. One had a chain wrapped around his fist, while another kept his hand near the pocket of his vest. Inside the store, Jimmy Chen had his phone out, likely calling the police. But Marcus knew that out here, law enforcement response times could be 20 minutes or more. He would need to handle this situation himself. "I'm just passing through," Marcus said calmly, his deep voice carrying the quiet authority that came from years of military command. "No need for trouble here." One of the younger bikers laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. "Hear that, Snake? He don't want no trouble. Maybe he should thought about that before riding through our town." Snake circled Marcus slowly, like a predator sizing up its prey. But what the biker didn't realize was that he wasn't dealing with prey at all. Marcus's muscles tensed imperceptibly beneath his t-shirt, ready to react at a moment's notice. His time in Afghanistan had taught him to stay loose until the instant action was needed. "Nice jacket you got there," Snake said, reaching out to touch the leather motorcycle jacket hanging on Marcus's bike. "Probably look better on one of my boys." Marcus's voice remained level, but took on a harder edge. "I wouldn't touch that if I were you. It was a gift from my unit." Snake's hand froze mid-reach as he processed Marcus's words. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face, quickly replaced by anger. "Military man, huh? Don't make no difference here. You're still not welcome." The tension in the air grew thicker as dark clouds gathered overhead. A few drops of rain began to fall, creating small dark spots on the concrete. The fluorescent lights of the gas station flickered, casting strange shadows across the scene. "Last chance?" Snake growled, cracking his knuckles. "Get on that rice burner of yours and ride away, or things are gonna get real unpleasant." Marcus didn't move. His eyes, hard as steel now, locked onto Snake's. "I've got about 2 hours of riding ahead of me, and I'd rather not do it in the rain. So how about you and your friends back off, and we all go our separate ways?" This seemed to enrage Snake further. He stepped even closer, his face inches from Marcus's. Behind him, his crew tightened their circle, cutting off potential escape routes. "You got some nerve, boy," Snake snarled. "Time to teach you some respect." The biker with the chain moved first, taking a step forward. Marcus noticed how the man's weight shifted, telegraphing his intentions. In Afghanistan, reading body language could mean the difference between life and death. These bikers, despite their attempts at intimidation, were amateurs compared to the fighters he'd faced overseas. Thunder cracked overhead, and the rain began to fall harder. Water dripped down Snake's tattooed scalp as he raised his fist with the brass knuckles. The security camera above the gas pump recorded everything, its red light blinking steadily in the growing darkness. Jimmy Chen watched anxiously from inside the store, his phone still pressed to his ear. He had seen trouble at his station before, but something about this felt different. The way the soldier carried himself, the calm in his eyes even when surrounded, Jimmy had a feeling these bikers had no idea what they were getting themselves into. As Snake's arm tensed for the first swing, Marcus's expression remained unchanged, but behind his calm exterior, years of combat training and battlefield experience were clicking into place. These men were about to learn a harsh lesson about judging books by their covers. Snake's brass knuckles whistled through the rain as they arced toward Marcus's face, but the biker's telegraph punch met nothing but empty air as Marcus shifted smoothly to the side, his movement so fluid it seemed almost casual. Before anyone could react, Marcus's hand shot out and grabbed Snake's extended wrist, using the biker's own momentum to send him stumbling forward. The other bikers stood frozen for a split second, shocked by their leader's graceless stumble. That moment of hesitation was all Marcus needed. His training in close-quarters combat had taught him that controlling the pace of a fight was just as important as knowing how to throw a punch. "That was your free shot," Marcus said quietly, his voice barely audible over the falling rain. "I suggest you don't take another." Snake regained his balance and spun around, his face contorted with rage and embarrassment. "Get him!" he roared, and his crew sprang into action. The biker with the chain swung his weapon in a wide arc, aiming for Marcus's head. Marcus ducked under the attack and stepped inside the man's guard. 2 quick strikes, one to the solar plexus and another to the throat, sent the chain-wielding biker crumpling to the wet pavement, gasping for air. The two younger bikers rushed forward together, trying to overwhelm Marcus with numbers. But their street fighting style was sloppy compared to the precision of Marcus's military training. He deflected a wild punch from the first attacker, using the man's own weight to throw him into his companion. Both bikers went down in a tangle of limbs. Inside the store, Jimmy Chen watched in amazement as the scene unfolded. The soldier moved with the controlled grace of a martial arts master, each motion precise and purposeful. The security camera continued recording as the rain fell harder, creating a cinematic backdrop to the one-sided fight. Snake, having recovered from his initial shock, pulled a switchblade from his vest pocket. The blade snapped open with a metallic click that was almost lost in the sound of the storm. "You're dead now, boy," he snarled, circling Marcus with the knife held low. Marcus's expression remained unchanged, but his stance shifted slightly. During his tours in Afghanistan, he had disarmed countless insurgents in close combat. A drunk biker with a switchblade was hardly the most dangerous opponent he'd faced. The remaining biker tried to grab Marcus from behind while Snake approached with the knife. Marcus dropped his shoulder and twisted, using his attacker's grip against him. The biker flew forward, crashing into a nearby gas pump with a heavy thud. He didn't get up. Snake lunged with the knife, slashing wildly. Marcus stepped inside the attack, his left hand deflecting Snake's knife arm while his right delivered a sharp strike to the biker's elbow. There was a sickening pop as the joint hyperextended. The switchblade clattered to the ground, and Snake howled in pain. Marcus followed up with a precise knee to Snake's midsection, driving the air from the biker's lungs. As Snake doubled over, Marcus grabbed the back of his head and brought it down to meet his rising knee. The impact wasn't full force. Marcus had no desire to kill anyone, but it was enough to send Snake sprawling unconscious onto the wet concrete. The two younger bikers had managed to untangle themselves and were now backing away, their earlier bravado replaced by genuine fear. The sound of distant sirens carried through the rain, growing steadily louder. Marcus surveyed the scene calmly. 4 bikers were down, 1 unconscious, 1 clutching his throat, 1 nursing what was likely a broken rib from hitting the gas pump, and Snake, who would wake up with a badly bruised face and a dislocated elbow. The remaining 2 looked ready to bolt at any second. "Police will be here soon," Marcus said, his voice leveled despite the exertion. "I suggest you stay and explain to them why you thought attacking a Special Forces veteran was a good idea." Thunder rolled overhead as the rain continued to fall, washing away small traces of blood from the pavement. Jimmy Chen had emerged from his store, holding an umbrella and staring at the aftermath of the brief but decisive fight. In less than 2 minutes, Marcus had dismantled an entire biker gang without throwing a single punch that could be considered excessive force. Red and blue lights pierced through the rain as 3 police cruisers pulled into Smith's gas station, tires splashing through puddles that had formed on the cracked pavement. Sheriff David Martinez was the first to step out, his hand resting cautiously on his holstered weapon as he surveyed the scene before him. What he saw looked like something out of an action movie. 6 bikers in various states of consciousness scattered across the gas station lot, and a single black man in a t-shirt standing calmly in the rain, hands visible at his sides. Behind him, Jimmy Chen was gesturing animatedly from beneath his umbrella, pointing at the security cameras. "Evening, officers," Marcus called out, his voice steady and professional. "Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson, United States Army Special Forces. I can provide my military ID." Sheriff Martinez relaxed slightly at the military identification but maintained his professional demeanor. 2 more deputies emerged from their vehicles, moving to check on the downed bikers. Snake was starting to come around, groaning and clutching his dislocated elbow. "Mr. Chen called this in as an attempted assault," Martinez said, approaching Marcus. "Want to tell me what happened here?" Marcus gave a concise account of the events while one of the deputies began taking photos of the scene. Jimmy Chen had already prepared the security camera footage, which he was showing to another deputy on the store's small monitor. "They're steel serpents," Martinez noted, looking at the patches on the bikers' vests. "We've had trouble with them before, but nothing this bold. They usually stick to harassing truckers and running their small-time operations." Snake was now sitting up, supported by one of the deputies. His face was swollen, and his right arm hung uselessly at his side. I want to press charges. He slurred, still somewhat dazed. He attacked us. Jimmy Chen burst out of his store, unable to contain himself any longer. That's a lie. I have everything on camera. They surrounded him, pulled a knife. He only defended himself. The deputy reviewing the security footage called out to the sheriff. Boss, you need to see this. Everything matches what the soldier said. We got clear footage of the gang initiating the confrontation and attacking first. Martinez nodded, then turned to Snake. Looks like you're the one facing charges tonight. Assault with a deadly weapon, to start with. He looked at the other bikers, who were being helped to their feet or checked by the arriving EMTs. And I'm betting when we run all your names, we'll find some outstanding warrants too. One of the younger bikers, seeing the situation deteriorating, tried to make a break for his motorcycle. He didn't get 3 steps before Deputy Sarah Collins had him face down on the wet pavement, handcuffs clicking into place. Son, Martinez said to Marcus, I'm going to need you to stick around and give us a formal statement. But I want you to know you handled this about as well as anyone could have. Showed remarkable restraint, from what I can see. Marcus nodded, finally allowing himself to feel the adrenaline drain from his system. His knuckles were slightly scraped, and he could feel what would become a bruise on his ribs where he blocked one of the wild punches, but otherwise he was unharmed. The EMTs were treating Snake's elbow and the other injured bikers. None of the injuries were severe. Marcus had made sure of that, but they would all be spending some time in the hospital before their trip to jail. Jimmy Chen approached Marcus with a fresh cup of coffee from his store. On the house, he said, smiling. You know, in 15 years running this station, I've never seen anything like that. Where did you learn to fight like that? Marcus accepted the coffee gratefully. 2 tours in Afghanistan, plus Special Forces training. But honestly, these guys made it easy. They weren't fighters, just bullies used to people being afraid of them. More police cars were arriving now, along with a local news van that had picked up the call on their scanner. The rain was finally starting to let up, and the gas station's fluorescent lights reflected off the wet pavement, creating halos around the emergency vehicles. Sheriff Martinez returned with a clipboard. Ready to take your statement, Sergeant. After that, you're free to go. Though I have to admit, this is going to make one hell of a report. Marcus couldn't help but smile slightly. All he wanted was to fill up his gas tank and get home. Instead, he'd ended up giving 6 bikers a lesson they wouldn't soon forget. The next morning, Marcus sat in Sheriff Martinez's office at the county police station, reviewing his written statement one final time. The small office was cluttered with case files and coffee cups, and a local news channel played quietly on a small TV mounted in the corner. You become quite the local hero, Sergeant Thompson, Martinez said, gesturing to the TV where security camera footage from the gas station was playing. The grainy video showed Marcus's efficient takedown of the bikers, though the rain made the footage look almost cinematic. Not my intention, sir, Marcus replied, signing the last page of his statement. I just wanted to get home. Martinez chuckled, taking the paperwork. Well, intention or not, you did this community a favor. The steel serpents have been a thorn in our side for months. After running their IDs last night, we found outstanding warrants on 4 of them, including Snake, or should I say, Richard Snake Dawson, wanted in 3 counties for assault, extortion, and drug trafficking. A knock on the office door interrupted them. Deputy Collins entered, carrying a thick file. Sir, you're going to want to see this. The FBI just sent over their file on the steel serpents. Turns out they're connected to a larger criminal organization we've been tracking. Marcus stood to leave, but Martinez held up a hand. Stay a moment, Sergeant. This concerns you too. He took the file from Collins and quickly scanned its contents, his eyebrows rising. Well, seems your gas station throwdown might have given us the break we've been looking for. The deputy turned up the TV volume as the morning news anchor began speaking. In local news, an attempted assault at Smith's gas station led to the arrest of 6 members of the notorious Steel Serpents motorcycle gang. Sources say the gang members attacked a U.S. Army Special Forces soldier, resulting in what witnesses describe as a masterclass in self-defense. Marcus watched the footage of himself on the screen, feeling slightly uncomfortable with the attention. The camera had captured the entire sequence, from Snake's first failed punch to the final takedown. Even through the rain-blurred footage, His military training was evident in every controlled movement. The gang members picked the wrong person to harass. The news anchor continued. The soldier, identified as Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson, is a decorated Special Forces veteran with 2 tours in Afghanistan. All 6 gang members are currently in custody, with charges ranging from assault to possession of illegal weapons. Martinez muted the TV and turned to Marcus. Here's the situation, Sergeant. The FBI has been building a case against the Steel Serpents and their parent organization for months. Your incident last night gives us probable cause to search their properties and phones. We're looking at potentially taking down their entire operation. Marcus absorbed this information, thinking about how a simple gas stop had turned into something much bigger. Happy to help, Sheriff, but I prefer to keep a low profile. Understood. Martinez nodded. But we may need you to testify when this goes to court. These guys aren't just local thugs anymore. They're part of a federal investigation now. Deputy Collins's radio crackled to life. Multiple suspects in custody at the Steel Serpents clubhouse. You're gonna want to see this, Sheriff. Martinez stood, grabbing his jacket. Duty calls. We'll be in touch, Sergeant Thompson. And thank you again, not just for handling those guys last night, but for showing such restraint. A lot of people might have done worse, given the situation. As Marcus left the police station, he noticed people looking at him differently. News traveled fast in small towns, and by now, most people had probably seen the footage. His phone had several missed calls from his commanding officer, likely having seen the news as well. Walking to his motorcycle, which had somehow escaped damage in the previous night's chaos, Marcus reflected on the situation. He hadn't asked for any of this attention, but if his actions helped law enforcement take down a criminal organization, then maybe it was worth the temporary spotlight. The morning sun was bright as he started his bike, preparing to finally complete his journey home. In the distance, he could see more police cars heading toward the Steel Serpents clubhouse, their sirens silent but lights flashing. What had started as a simple gas station confrontation was now evolving into something much bigger than anyone had expected. 2 days after the gas station incident, Marcus sat in Colonel James Harrison's office at Fort Benning, watching his commanding officer review the viral video footage for what seemed like the 10th time. The colonel's office was pristine, with carefully arranged military awards and unit photos decorating the walls. You know, Thompson, Harrison said, finally turning away from his computer screen, when I tell my men to maintain our unit's reputation, this isn't exactly what I had in mind. Despite his serious tone, there was a hint of amusement in his eyes. Yes, sir, I apologize for any unwanted attention this has brought to the unit, Marcus replied, sitting straight in his chair. Harrison waved off the apology. Are you kidding? The video has over 5 million views. The Army's recruitment office is having a field day with this. Do you know how many young people have walked into recruitment centers in the last 48 hours, asking about Special Forces training? Before Marcus could respond, Harrison's phone buzzed. He answered, listened briefly, then looked at Marcus with raised eyebrows. They're here? Let's go. They walked together to the base's main conference room, where 2 FBI agents were waiting. Agent Sarah Rodriguez and Agent Michael Chen introduced themselves, spreading files across the conference table. Sergeant Thompson, Agent Rodriguez began, your gas station encounter has blown open a 3-year investigation. The Steel Serpents weren't just a local motorcycle gang, they were the distribution arm of a major weapons trafficking operation. Agent Chen pulled up several surveillance photos on his laptop. The arrests at the gas station gave us probable cause to move on their clubhouse. We found evidence linking them to weapons shipments across 5 states. But here's where it gets interesting. He pointed to a photo of Snake meeting with a well-dressed man. This man is Viktor Petrov, a known arms dealer we've been trying to nail for years. Marcus studied the photo, remembering Snake's brass knuckles coming at his face, so they weren't just harassing people at gas stations. Far from it, Rodriguez confirmed. They were using their reputation as a motorcycle gang to cover their real operations. The night they encountered you, they were actually waiting for a shipment. Your presence disrupted their plans, and the subsequent arrests forced their suppliers to abandon the delivery. Colonel Harrison leaned forward. What do you need from us? We're building a federal case, Chen explained. Sergeant Thompson's testimony about their aggressive behavior and weapons possession will help establish a pattern. Plus, the video evidence is compelling proof of their willingness to engage in violence. Marcus nodded slowly. Whatever you need, but I have one condition. Everyone looked at him expectantly. Keep my involvement as low profile as possible. I don't need any more viral videos. Harrison chuckled. Bit late for that, son. But we can minimize your public exposure going forward. Agent Rodriguez gathered her files. We'll work with GAG to prepare your testimony. The preliminary hearing is next week. By the way, Jimmy Chen, the gas station owner? He's being hailed as a hero too. His quick thinking in calling the police and preserving the security footage gave us crucial evidence. As the meeting concluded, Colonel Harrison held Marcus back. One more thing, Thompson. The base commander wants to present you with a commendation. Not for the fight, for showing restraint and protecting civilians while maintaining the Army's values. Marcus began to protest, but Harrison cut him off. This isn't about you anymore, Sergeant. It's about showing the public what a true soldier looks like. You handled that situation exactly as we train our people to do, with controlled force and professional restraint. Looking out the conference room window, Marcus could see a group of new recruits doing PT on the parade ground. They were part of the latest training class, possibly inspired by the viral video of his gas station encounter. Understood, sir, he finally said. I just hope the next time I need gas, it's a little less eventful. Harrison laughed, clapping him on the shoulder. With your luck, Thompson, I wouldn't count on it. By the way, your squad sends their regards. They'd only watched the video about 100 times. As they walked out of the conference room, Marcus couldn't help but smile. What had started as a simple act of self-defense had snowballed into something much larger, potentially bringing down a major criminal organization. Sometimes, he reflected, being in the wrong place at the right time could make all the difference. 1 week later, Marcus sat in the federal courthouse in Atlanta, adjusting his formal military uniform as he waited to testify. The preliminary hearing for the Steel Serpents case had drawn significant media attention, with reporters clustered outside the building like hungry pigeons. Inside the courtroom, Snake and his fellow gang members looked vastly different from the night at the gas station. Gone were their leather vests and tough guy personas, replaced by ill-fitting suits and subdued expressions. Snake's arm was still in a sling, and a yellowing bruise decorated his face where Marcus's knee had connected. U.S. Attorney Patricia Williams was presenting the government's case with methodical precision. Your Honor, the evidence will show that the Steel Serpents used intimidation and violence to control their territory, all while running a sophisticated weapons trafficking operation. The security footage from Smith's gas station played on screens throughout the courtroom. Marcus watched himself move with practiced efficiency, neutralizing each threat with minimal force. The rain-soaked scene had become infamous, replayed on news channels across the country. When Marcus took the stand, he delivered his testimony with the same calm precision he'd shown that night. He described the encounter in clinical detail, highlighting the gang's aggressive behavior and their possession of weapons. And at any point, Sergeant Thompson, Attorney Williams asked, did you use excessive force in defending yourself? No, ma'am, Marcus replied. I used only the necessary force to neutralize the immediate threats while preventing serious injury to any party involved. During cross-examination, Snake's defense attorney tried to paint the incident as a simple misunderstanding that got out of hand. Isn't it possible, Sergeant, that you overreacted to what was merely aggressive posturing? Marcus met the attorney's gaze steadily. Sir, when someone pulls a knife and attempts to cause bodily harm, that goes beyond posturing. I responded according to my training, using appropriate force to defend myself while ensuring no one suffered permanent injury. Jimmy Chen testified next, his security footage providing irrefutable evidence of the gang's actions. He had become something of a local celebrity himself, his gas station now a popular spot for people hoping to see where the viral video was filmed. After Sergeant Thompson subdued the attackers, Jimmy testified he stayed to help the injured and cooperated fully with law enforcement. He showed more concern for their welfare than they had shown for his. During a recess, FBI agent Rodriguez shared some news with Marcus. The evidence seized from the clubhouse led us to 3 more weapons catches. Petrov is on the run, but Interpol has him on their radar. This case is bigger than we initially thought. The hearing concluded with the judge ruling that there was more than enough evidence to proceed to trial. As Marcus left the courthouse, he found Sheriff Martinez waiting by his car. "Thought you'd want to know," Martinez said. "Crime rates in our county have dropped 30% since that night. Amazing what happens when you take down the right group of troublemakers." Marcus nodded, thinking about how a simple gas stop had cascaded into such significant events. "Any word on when the trial will be?" "Probably won't be one," Martinez replied. "Word is, most of them are looking to make deals. They saw how the judge reacted to that video footage. Nobody wants to face a jury after watching you take down 6 guys while barely breaking a sweat." As if on cue, Marcus's phone buzzed with a news alert. The video had just hit 10 million views. His squad had created a meme of him dodging Snake's punch, adding the caption, "When you mess with the wrong Special Forces soldier." Colonel Harrison had been right. This was bigger than just one incident. It had become a symbol of professional military conduct in the face of unprovoked aggression. Training centers were using the footage to teach proper restraint and controlled response. Driving back to base, Marcus passed Smith's gas station. The parking lot was full, with people taking selfies near pump number 2. Jimmy had put up a small plaque commemorating the incident, and his business was booming. Marcus smiled slightly, remembering the rain and the thunder that had provided such a dramatic backdrop to the confrontation. Sometimes the best way to fight darkness was to face it head-on, with discipline, training, and unwavering professionalism. The Steel Serpents had learned that lesson the hard way. 3 months after the gas station incident, Marcus stood at attention in Fort Benning's main auditorium, facing a packed crowd of soldiers, officials, and media representatives. The base commander, General Robert Walsh, was presenting him with the Soldier's Medal for his actions that night. Staff Sergeant Thompson's conduct exemplifies the highest standards of the United States Army, General Walsh announced. His measured response to a dangerous situation not only protected civilians but demonstrated the perfect balance of capability and restraint that we expect from our soldiers. In the audience, Marcus could see Jimmy Chen beaming proudly. The gas station owner had become a close friend over the past months, and his business had transformed into a legitimate tourist attraction. He even started selling T-shirts with "Choose Your Battles Wisely" printed above a silhouette of a motorcycle at a gas pump. After the ceremony, FBI agent Rodriguez shared the final results of their investigation. The Steel Serpents case had led to the arrest of 37 people across 6 states, the seizure of over 300 illegal weapons, and the dismantling of Viktor Petrov's entire East Coast operation. Petrov himself had been arrested in Bulgaria, trying to establish new trafficking routes. "You know," Rodriguez said, showing Marcus photos of the seized weapons, "Snake and his crew took plea deals last week. They're all testifying against Petrov. It's funny how tough guys suddenly become cooperative when facing federal charges." Colonel Harrison joined them, carrying a folder. "Speaking of cooperation, the Army's Public Affairs Office has a request, Thompson. They want to use your gas station footage in our new recruitment campaign. Theme is strength through discipline, showing how proper training creates soldiers who can handle any situation." Marcus considered this. The video had already been viewed by millions. It might as well serve a positive purpose. "As long as it promotes the right message, sir. This isn't about fighting. It's about protecting people and maintaining control." Later that evening, Marcus returned to Smith's gas station for the first time since the incident. Jimmy had organized a small celebration, and the local community had turned out in force. The old gas station had been renovated, its pumps modernized, and a small coffee shop added to the convenience store. Sheriff Martinez was there, chatting with other law enforcement officers. "Crime rates are still down," he reported happily. "Turns out when you remove the right cancer, the whole body gets healthier." As Marcus filled up his motorcycle at the famous pump number 2, he reflected on how one moment could change so many lives. The Steel Serpents were finished, their criminal enterprise dismantled. Jimmy's business was thriving. Local recruitment numbers for the Army had doubled. And somewhere, people watching that video might think twice before trying to intimidate others. A young man approached Marcus, somewhat nervously. "Sergeant Thompson, I enlisted because of you. Not because of the fighting, but because of how you handled it. That's the kind of soldier I want to be." Marcus shook the young man's hand. "Remember, the best fight is the one you can avoid. But when you can't avoid it, you handle it with discipline and professionalism." As the sun set over the gas station, casting long shadows across the newly paved lot, Marcus prepared to ride home. The security camera that had captured everything still blinked its red light, now accompanied by a small plaque that read, "Site of the gas station incident, where training met character." Jimmy walked out to say goodbye, carrying 2 cups of coffee from his new shop. "You know, Marcus, some people might call what happened that night bad luck, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I think it was the opposite. You were exactly where you needed to be." Marcus smiled, accepting the coffee. The incident had shown that sometimes the best way to fight evil wasn't with matching aggression, but with controlled, professional response. His training hadn't just taught him how to fight, it had taught him when and how much force to use. As he rode away, Marcus caught his reflection in his bike's mirrors. He was still the same soldier, still focused on his duty and training. But now he carried with him the knowledge that sometimes the greatest victories come not from defeating an enemy, but from showing them a better way. The gas station grew smaller in his mirrors, its lights glowing warmly in the gathering dusk, a beacon of how one person's principled stand could spark positive change far beyond the scope of a single rainy night.